You've just tuned in to the nexus of inspiring, encouraging, and uplifting leaders who share their successes and their failures. Insights that will motivate, cultivate, educate, and illuminate your path to a very bright future. Welcome to Shaping the Future podcast. Here's your host, Gregg Kell.
Welcome, Future Shapers, to this edition of Shaping the Future podcast. And today, I am pleased to introduce you to Joel Rood, the Executive Director at the Alpine Camp and Conference Center in Blue Jay, California. Joel, please introduce yourself. Tell us just a little bit.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to do this. And as you said, the Executive Director of Alpine Camp and Conference Center, have been in this role for just over 2 years. Prior to that, for 8 years, was its Associate Director. And Alpine exists within a network of churches in Southern California to provide summer and winter youth camp and children's camp, residential camp, and day camp experiences. We have a spring and fall outdoor education program for public, charter, and private schools. We also have what we considered and have been told is one of the most challenging high ropes challenge courses. And we do a lot of team building for schools, churches, and businesses in that regard as well.
Excellent. Now, we in the Future Shapers audience, Joel, are passionate about entrepreneurship and innovation, which generates higher productivity, profits, growth, and results. That's our business side, but you don't really have as much of a business side, but more of a service side. Tell us, Joel, what are you most passionate about today?
Oh, today. Well, I'm always passionate about the core of the camping industry, whether it's faith-based camping such as ours or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, because camp changes lives. Just being in a temporary community with people who care for you and want you to grow changes your life. So I'm passionate about that. Currently, I am learning a lot about a program that's renting our facility in August called Camp Hope America. It is the only evidence-based program in this country that is designed to help children who have been traumatized integrate hope back into their lives. And they're using the science of hope. You can actually define hope and study it and increase hope in the lives of kids who've been traumatized, even to the point of suffering from PTSD. And I just came back from a conference with that group of people. And we're really looking forward to hosting them, plus integrating the principles they're discovering into our own camp programming. Because we teach about faith, hope, and love. Faith is something that we always teach about. Love, obviously teach about it. Well, now there's something really solid in the hope category that we can add to what we're doing.
Joel, I understand faith and the value of faith, and I understand agape love, but the science of hope, I have never heard of that. Can you share a little bit more about the science of hope, and in particular on how that might impact people that really need it?
Yes. There's actually done about 2,000 studies on hope itself. And now with Camp Hope America and its network, they're focusing in on, well, when people have experienced trauma, whether it's abuse of any type or neglect or abandonment, but even in, adult life, we've got setbacks and things that go wrong. If it happens too often, the opposite of hope is not despair, it's apathy. I give up. Why bother? So the science of hope measures things like resiliency and agency. Do you have the zest or the grit to think about your future? And the definition that they're using in this program is hope is a belief that my future can be better than my past, and I can play a significant role in making it better.
And there you have it. Future Shapers, a value bomb dropped by Joel Rood today. Hope is believing that our future is better than our past, and I can have a role in shaping that future.
Yes, and we just have to constantly feed it and be around people who continue to feed it.
Outstanding. Get it around the right people. You also mentioned that apathy flows from a lack of of hope. And apathy could be something that's dangerous because people don't stand for anything. They have apathy. Maybe it comes from the curveballs in life that get thrown at us. When things don't turn out the way that we want, they lose hope. Their spirit is crushed, and they end up wandering through life with an apathetic frame of mind. That's not good.
That is not good.
Tell us have you had an experience in your professional career when a curveball has been thrown at you? You thought it was going to be a fastball, but it turned out to be a curveball. Maybe you swung, but it ended up being an experience that was not what you expected, that you can share with our audience today.
Yeah, I had one that happened several years ago. I shifted from one camp role in the Midwest to become an executive pastor at a church on the West Coast. And in my industry and my worldview, my faith system, I don't just go to a job because they called. It's, okay, Lord, what is going on here? Is this something you really want me to do? And everybody in my family and my network in a new place said, this seems like a great fit. And it turned out to be something entirely different than anybody expected. And it threw me off. It was a very crushing experience and disorienting. So it took several years to recover from that, get my confidence back and understand what really happened there. And God has made it clear that it wasn't what you all thought it was going to be, but I used you in these ways in that situation for these outcomes.
And Joel, what lessons did you learn from proceeding through that event?
Several things. Remain faithful to what you know you're called to be doing. And another thing is, it's not only okay to ask for help, it's absolutely necessary to ask for help. I grew up in a situation where my father died when I was 12, and I decided as a 12-year-old I'm going to do this on my own. And it has taken me most of my adult life to unlearn that adolescent lesson, or that adolescent decision.
So now, as executive director, part of your success is your ability to work with and maybe marshal the resources of other people in helping them to become as best of people that they can be, both employees at the camp and also attendees at the camp.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all working through people to accomplish goals.
Yep.
Outstanding. Okay. So here we are at the beginning of May of 2018. When you look forward into this year, what is your most important goal, Joel?
It's going to sound kind of lofty and philosophical, but
we future shapers love lofty. Okay. We do lofty with elegance.
All right, let's try it. We just celebrated our 60th anniversary last year, and I did a lot of studying about our history and interviewing the founding fathers that were still alive, etc., and founding mothers. But back then, most of them were founding fathers. And I observed that Alpine had kind of stayed true to its core, but tried to become other things over the course of those 60 years. So we've identified our core is that we exist to help churches disciple their children. And we need to just build on that core and augment it, we think, in part with this hope aspect that I was just describing. And in the process, we're figuring out, well, okay, what do we need to focus on? What are the things that we should attend to? What do we stop doing? What are the metrics? How do you measure things in a relationship-based service industry? There are the finances, but how do you measure our mission? So it's more of the set of goals for this year is we know now what our core is. We know what we need to stop doing. How do we align with who we believe we are called to be and what we believe we are being called to become? So,
if I could summarize, focus on your core mission, yes. Okay? And get better at delivering through your core mission, but have a measurement system that would allow you to evaluate the successes and improve on your ability to facilitate the core mission.
I would agree with that, and I'd add one more thing. Just, stay true to the core, but always figure out ways to progress forward, because the methods change even though the message may be the same.
And that is an example of innovation in practice, being open to innovate as required in order to get deliver as much value and while staying true to your core. Because if you go too far off course, sometimes you fall into a ditch. We don't want that.
Well, you do that, or you become so diluted you can't provide as much value as you could if you stayed true to the core.
Excellent. Okay, so tell us about, you looked at the history of Alpine Camp going back 60 years. In your perception, why was Alpine Camp and Conference Center formed all of those years ago? And my follow-up question will be, how does the current Alpine Camp reflect those founding principles from all those years ago?
Alpine was founded by groups of leaders within this network of churches because they believed they could do that discipleship ministry better together rather than each church doing it on their own. So they used to run camp programs and rent other facilities, but eventually they said, if we own our own property, we could really focus on doing this well. So our immediate family of churches is the founding network, but then our extended family is any other Christian church or organization that wants this kind of experience, the hospitality experience in a natural setting. How we're doing that now, some camps market the business side of their organization to individuals, to families, etc. Our customer is the local church. Mm-hmm. So we build relationships with the decision makers in those churches and find out, well, what is it that you are trying to do in the lives of your families and the lives of the children? And how can we help you do that out here in the forest in a camp setting? So we're really honing in on our customer is the decision maker in the church who's trying to shape the lives of the families and children in that church.
And you and Alpine come alongside those church leaders, helping them to succeed in their mission. You are like an assist, and again, helping them by providing them alternatives and ultimately helping them achieve the goals that they have of really helping to bring and build up and edify the children of the future.
Yes.
Okay, then. Now, you mentioned before that you have, I guess my basic question, please share with our listening audience the best advice you have ever received, especially in your role as executive director of Alpine Camp and Conference Center.
Well, I almost said it a little while ago, and it's probably the best advice I failed to follow. Oh! And that is, receive the help that's offered to you from people who are better in that area than you are.
Okay. Is there can you give an example here of how you have either overlooked that and regretted it, or listened to that and implemented it?
Well, it's always easier to tell a story of what went wrong. As I said, my father was killed in a work accident when I was 12, so I became this independent young man. I went to college, and there were 3 men who were in their 50s or 60s who somehow knew about my family and I, and on different occasions, they each came to me and said, hey, I know your family. I've been watching you. If there's anything you ever need, let me know. And these are leaders within that college campus, etc. And I just completely ignored the offer. And much later, I thought, man, what would be different now if I had allowed myself to be mentored by them or got into the networks that they were willing to put me into? And that's a lesson I learned the hard way many times.
And there you have it, Future Shapers, another value bomb dropped by Joel Root. Seek out mentors to help you become the best leader you possibly can. And if those mentors happen to come to you, Listen, pay attention, be humble, be willing to accept their gift of time and, quite frankly, wisdom treasure, because many of the times they have your best interest at heart.
That'll preach.
I'll take it. All right. Now, we, Joel, in the Future Shapers audience, are big believers in reading. We believe in continual improvement and education. What is the best book that you can recommend to our Future Shapers audience, and what?
Well, it's one called Integrity by Dr. Henry Cloud, and I actually use it in mentoring some of our younger staff here at camp. Every summer, every outdoor education season, somebody says, hey, can we meet together, or is there a book that I can read? And the subtitle for the book Integrity is The Courage to Meet the Demands of Reality, How 6 Essential Qualities Determine Your Success in Business. So he's written it for business people, but he's written it for the person of the business. It's not a how to do business, it's how to do you in the business world or in life in general. And I've reread this book 3-4 times. We go over it with staff that we hire. I recommend this to all kinds of people.
And there you have it, Future Shapers, Integrity. There's actually a book entitled Integrity, and it's something that maybe we should pursue as an aspiration in all of our lives. And that is a living principle that can guide our daily result. Do we seek integrity? When the challenges are in front of us, when we have options to go one way that we know is not right, or do we choose to have the principle of integrity guide us down the right road, which is not necessarily the quickest road to success? Integrity. That's a good thing. Thank you for sharing. Okay. We, in the Future Shapers audience, believe that simple actions, especially one founded on integrity, that over time, habits and actions work together to yield an outstanding future. What are you doing now, Joel, to shape your future?
I have been encouraged to and have chosen to spend more time in prayer, more time listening, and more time paying attention to details. And in our industry, we are a faith-based camping ministry, but in the hospitality context. So we at Alpine are going to spend more time looking at hospitable attention to detail. What about our systems, our processes, our facility, the meals, the bedrooms? Can we pay more attention to for the sake of hospitality, which, biblically speaking, is loving strangers? And that's what we do here. We just invite people here and we love on them.
There is an excellent story, the Good Samaritan, that really is the example of hospitality in action.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, tell me, Joel, we believe, and the Future Shapers audience believes, that as citizens of our country, we have a responsibility to help to positively shape the direction that our nation is going in. Tell us, Joel, what is America to you?
Well, we've kind of scratched on that already with some of the terms we've been using. And in thinking about it, I came up with this. I had to write this one down so I wouldn't ramble. I really believe America is a shining example of the great good people can be together when principles and integrity guide our actions. And it can be a sobering example of the great harm people can do to each other when those principles are ignored, mocked, or disintegrated. But the principles still remain, as does the choice.
Excellent. At the end, I would submit that the greatest value in life comes from the choices that we make. Do we choose to operate with integrity? Do we choose to operate our life respecting other people and respecting our country, respecting our laws? Do we choose to elevate the people that are around us, helping them to be the best people that they can be? Do we choose to have an abiding faith in the work of our Lord Jesus Christ. Because in my opinion, that is the choice.
That'll preach too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So thank you, Joel, for sharing us with the Future Shapers audience. Would you please share with them how listeners who would like to reach out to you could contact you?
Sure. My email address is joel@alpine-cc.org. And our number here at the camp is 1-800-350-6289.
Thank you, Future Shapers, first of all, thank you, Joel Rood, for sharing with us today your outlook and your experiences in the past. We are grateful to you. Thank you, Future Shapers, for attending this episode of our podcast. And get ready, because we're already planning the next one. It's going in the can. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining this episode of Shaping the Future podcast. We leave you, Future Shapers, with this challenge. Act boldly today to shape your future, because if you don't, it will absolutely be shaped for you.